an existing block south of the.
That's what we'll, that's.
Got it.
D2 for inspection, non-conforming use of use, D4 for the. And
Allegiance.
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Jackson Township Planning Board. It's June 1st, 2026. Year is flying.
6 months.
It's going real quick. This meeting has been appropriately published in all the proper places and forums according to the Open Public Meetings Act, and I will leave it off to Madam Chairwoman.
Good evening, everyone. We'll have the roll call, please.
Here.
Mr. Marzo? Mr. Heller?
Here.
Mr. Parks?
Yeah.
Mr. Rogers?
Here.
Ms. Santoro? Mr. Trimmer? Mr. Weingart? Mr. Sullivan?
Here.
Dr. Camp?
Here. We'll take a motion for payment of voucher for recording secretary for June 1st, please.
So moved.
Second, Sullivan.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Brezzi?
Yes.
Mr. Heller?
Yes.
Mr. Parks?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Dr. Camp?
Yes. And we'll take a motion for the approval of the minutes from May 18th.
So moved, Sullivan. Second, Heller.
Mr. Brezzi?
Yes.
Mr. Heller?
Yes.
Mr. Parks?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Dr. Camp?
Yes. We have 3 resolutions tonight.
Resolution number 2026-14 of the Planning Board of the Township of Jackson, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey granting administrative approval for Six Flags Great Adventure for 2026 capital improvement programs regarding boardwalk improvements, Block 3101, Lot 1101.
Just a note that Ms. DiMarzo has joined us. We'll take a motion, please.
So moved.
Second, Heller.
Mr. Brezzi,
Yes.
Mr. Marzo,
yes,
Mr. Parks,
Yes.
Mr. Rogers,
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan,
Yes.
and Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Resolution number 2026-15 of the Planning Board of the Township of Jackson, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, granting administrative approval for Six Flags Great Adventure for 2027 capital improvement programs regarding Block 3101, Lot 11.01.
Take a motion, please.
I'd like to make a motion to approve, Sullivan.
Second.
Mr. Brezzi,
Yes.
Mr. Marzo,
yes,
Mr. Parks,
Yes.
Mr. Rogers,
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan,
Yes.
and Dr. Campbell.
Yes.
Resolution 2026-16 of the Planning Board of the Township of Jackson, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, grants and minor subdivision approval with required variances for residential use for Aaron and Schiffer Stern, Block 6801, lots 31 and 43.
Motion, please.
Like,
So moved.
second, Sullivan.
Mr. Brezzi,
Yes.
Mr. Marzo,
yes,
Mr. Parks,
Yes.
Mr. Rogers,
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan,
Yes.
Dr. Campbell.
Yes. And just a note to thank our attorney for getting these resolutions to us in such a timely manner. Thank you. We have a change to the agenda schedule to carry application block 21001, lot 1 for COJ Holdings LLC from October 5th, 2026 to November 16th, 2026 with notice required. We'll take a motion on that, please.
So moved, Sullivan. Second, Heller.
Any discussion on the motion? Then roll call vote, please.
Mr. Brezzi,
Yes.
Mr. Marzo,
yes,
Mr. Parks,
Yes.
Mr. Rogers,
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan,
Yes.
Dr. Campbell.
Yes. Any engineering or planning matters, gentlemen? Any attorney matters, sir?
Just that a letter of objection was sent to our office regarding 510 Whitesville. I will be reviewing it for sufficiency, and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
That's it.
Are there any board matters for discussion? Okay. Then we have block 1102, lot 24.02 with block 1101, lot 34, WB Ocean 26 LLC. Traffic impact analysis revised. You ready? Anybody?
It should be in the
It's not on my,
Nicholas.
oh, that's right, okay. It's not on here, all right. It's over there. Block 19501, lot 21. Kyle Najas Avos, Inc., 26 Whitesville Road. 1-year extension. Ms. Jennings?
Thank you. For the record, I'm Donna Jennings from the law firm of Bolen, Skolman, and Spitzer on behalf of the applicant. As indicated by the board chairwoman, the applicant is seeking a 1-year extension of its approval that was granted by resolution dated September 8, 2025. I have Mr. Borden with me to the left, if we can have him sworn in, and we'll just explain why the applicant needs the extension and the difficulties that we were having, mostly with connecting to the sewer, which there's apparently no capacity. So Mr. Borden can be sworn in, he can give you a little bit more detail.
Please raise your right hand. You swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth? All right. Please state your name and spell your last for the record.
Yes, good evening. Ian Borden, the president of Professional Design Services, licensed planner.
Been here a few times.
I've been here a few times.
Welcome.
Hello, it's been a while. Nice to see
It's
you
been a
all.
while, though.
It's nice to see you all. Yes, So this is the house of worship that's located at the northern end of Whitesville Road, adjacent to East Veteran or East Veterans Highway. Um, The site is in the RG2 zone in Pinelands, and we've been working diligently on a number of items with the Pinelands Commission, who have basically signed off on the project, as well as the County Planning Board and Soil Conservation. And we're very close. That includes the subdivision as well as the site plan. So that's the reason we're asking for the extension, is for those regulatory agencies that have taken longer time than the approval period has been so far. I do want to point out for the record, one important fact, which just for the record, as Ms. Jennings noted, one of the issues we've confronted is lack of sewer capacity. I think the board's all familiar with that, with the Toms River sewer capacity. In this case, we are proposing a sewer extension to the project. We're working with JTMUA on that. But in order to build the shul in the interim basis until the sewer capacity is available, we are proposing a septic system actually on adjoining lot owned by the applicant. It's lot 22. It's just a temporary septic easement that would only suffice to allow the site to operate until the sewer's connected or capacity is available. Once that capacity is available, it would connect and the septic system would be abandoned. And that has been approved by Pinelands. We've gone through all the vetting with Pinelands.
What's
on
the timeline that we're looking at on that?
The timeline for the sewer capacity is the same answer for every project in this area, and that is that there is an agreement between the JTMUA and another developer. In order to get capacity for this central sewer service area, Pinelands region of Jackson, there needs to be a second sewer force main constructed from Jackson all the way to the end of 527.
27.
All the way to the Boy Scout building, if we know the area. So it's 5.5 miles. And my office is doing that project, and we are involved in the permitting of that. We just recently received the CAFR permit, which is for the Toms River portion, and we're submitting soon to OCUA and DEP. So the agreement the agreement between the developer and the JTMUA has a projected completion date of 2 years.
But we're not voting on that
No, that's
tonight.
nothing to do. You
That's
just asked the question.
You're just putting it in our
You
heads.
just asked the
for
question, and
future.
I'm giving you an answer.
And-
That has
and
nothing to do with this project.
How long do you think you'll need for the extension?
1 year.
1 year.
1 year.
That look okay? And that will still require notice?
No, it's a statutory
Okay.
request for
All right.
time extension.
All right, then
I have a question.
we'll look for questions from the board.
Mr.
Board.
We've heard this is about the fifth application of the year, so we're aware of no flow problem. However, as the MUA said, they'll go along with you doing the septic in the meantime. Normally, they'll give you a preliminary and you do the septic, then you commit to hooking up once it's done.
Oh, yes, no, we've already committed to that with the MUA.
You got that with the
Absolutely, we
MUA?
have
Okay.
committed to that.
Because
My client wants to connect to the sewer. He doesn't want a septic.
No, and
So
and
it's
I know
just an
the second-
interim basis. We will connect.
And the second part of this pipe is almost a loop that they have to do, and you're right. Until they do that, there'll be no flow. So there'll be a lot of applications coming in like this.
The microphone.
There'll be a lot more applications coming in like this in the next year or two for sure. Because until that loop is put in or that extension is put in on that line, going out through Whitesville and out to Toms River that way, there is no flow available and there won't be none for a while.
That's correct.
And
And
this-
in the design, I can tell you that in the design of that downstream pipe and system, we've considered, my office, I have estimated the flows for consistent with the master plan.
So that would be increased pipes compared to what
Yes,
used to be used.
Yes. And that has been vetted through the MUA engineers as well as MUA.
Madam
staff.
Chair, I'm well aware of this problem and it's a true problem and I think we'll have to face this more. Some people think, well, great, the MUA turns them down, you turn down the application, they have a right to put a septic system in then with the governing agencies involved, DEP or Pinelands, whoever it is, and they have a right to do that. So I see no problem with it. I know it's factual.
Engineer? Anything from you on this?
May not be so agreeable. At any rate, the time extensions that you're looking for, 1 year to file the subdivision plat or in addition to the site plan?
In addition to the site plan.
In addition to the site plan.
So whatever, because the site plan hasn't really, the protection period hasn't expired yet.
I understand.
So you're looking for another year onto
Just
what you
while
would
we're
normally
here.
have, and a year to
Yes.
also file a subdivision plan.
Yes.
And your request tonight is for the extension or for the extension and to modify the approval to allow temporary septic system?
I personally don't believe a modification of the approval is required because sewer septic is not regulated by the planning board. But if you feel a modification is required, then I would ask for that
I
at the
would say
same time.
absolutely. The representation to the board at the time and the public was this was going to connect the public sewer.
And it will. We're not changing that.
But it wasn't, this is going to connect the public sewer
The-
unless the capacity's in there. And then we temporarily want, if that would have been disclosed to the board and the public, I really wouldn't be
I understand.
being difficult. But the extension, I have absolutely no problem with. I agree 100%. There is a problem with the pump station capacity that nobody really anticipated. But I'll push back on the modification to the approval to allow a septic system, which I think would have brought up a whole another issues had that been presented to the board. And I believe we're also bringing in another property for the septic
Just
system.
an easement on the adjoining property, yes.
But again, you're bringing in another property for us.
So, Mr. Kling, you're
I'm gonna-
recommending that we hold off on any discussion of the septic system until the year passes, and
Absolutely.
we'll take care of it then.
Absolutely. Unless, the board feels, we can amend that approval as long as there's public notice. But
Yep.
there's my pushback.
I just want to answer Doug, my good friend Doug. We never disagree, but here we're going to disagree. On the other property, let's dig into that a little bit, because this is no different than every project we do deals with other properties. This board may not see it. For example, every time we do a county road improvement, for every project, we have to acquire property from adjoining right-of-ways. This, to me, is no different than that. It's just a temporary easement on another property. We're not building anything on it related to this project. No parking, no drainage, no anything. So I humbly disagree that.
But you will be building a septic system.
Of course.
So
And if you
this
want
is
us
not
to
the
come back-
time, we don't think this is the time to have that discussion.
Well, that's your right.
The discussion will take place when the public has been notified.
That's fine.
And tonight, we will only vote on the time extension.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, so basically, there's two different things at play here. One, time extension, specific type of application.
Mhm.
Two, modification, specific type of application. They don't overlap. They can be simultaneous, but as of right now, it's just a statutory right for the extension that's in front of us. So that's what the board is going to be voting on.
And we'll make a separate application for the modification. There's a field change
Thank you.
with notice.
Mr. Peters?
From a planning perspective, the zoning of the property has not changed, so we don't have any concerns.
Thank you. Anyone else from the board with any concerns? All right, then we'll accept a motion on carrying this for a 1-year time extension.
I'd like to make a motion, but before I do, I wish there was more public here tonight to see how it works. We approved an application one way. When the outside agency couldn't meet it, they had to come back in front of us. And we said it all the time, we're only the first step. The outside agencies control everything, be it the Pinelands or anybody. I make a motion to approve the time extension.
Second, Sullivan.
Take a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Brezzi.
Yes.
Mr. Marzo.
I'm going to abstain from this. Thank you.
Mr. Heller.
Yes.
Mr. Parks.
Yes.
Mr. Rogers.
Yes.
Mr. Tremor.
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan.
Yes.
Dr. Campbell.
Yes. Welcome, Mr. Tremor. I didn't see you come in. All right, thank you
you
very
all.
much.
And I get
So
to see you at the next meeting too. or the next-
lucky us, 2 for 2.
Lucky for you.
All right. But we get the pleasure of Ms. Jennings moving forward. Block 1102, Lot 24.02, with Block 1101, Lot 34, WB Ocean 26 LLC.
Thank you again for the record. Donna Jennings from the law firm of Willen, Goldman, and Spitzer on behalf of the applicant. As the board is aware, the applicant is here this evening seeking an amended preliminary and final major site plan approval for property located at 1020 Farmingdale Road and identified as block 1102, lot 24.02 on the township's tax map. And also involves property across the street, also owned by an entity of the applicant at 1050 Farmingdale Avenue, identified as block 1101, lot 34. As the board will recall, by resolution dated June 19, 2023, this board adopted a resolution approving the development of 3 high schools on lot 24.02. That approval did not require any variances and provided for the green banking of parking spaces at the request of the board, rather than build out the parking that was in excess to the needs of the schools. Since the 2023 approval, the applicant has been working with the county to obtain the necessary approvals for this project. And during those discussions, Ocean County requested that Feister Road, which runs north-south in the vicinity of the property, be realigned to create a 4-way intersection at Farmingdale Road with New Prospect Road. So that triggers us coming in for the preliminary and final major subdivision approval to subdivide lot 34 to allow the realignment with the small remainder of the subdivided portion to be added to what is now lot 24.02. And the applicant is also seeking to subdivide lot 24.02 so that each of the previously approved schools is on its own lot. With respect to the amended preliminary and final major site plan approval, the applicant is seeking to modify the septic system, with which currently the approval has 1 septic system, and with the 3 lots, each school would have its own septic system. That's the only other site modification, other than extending some of the access drives because the road was realigned and it creates more property on the side where the schools are. With me this evening, I have 3 witnesses, the site engineer, Hootie Back, who is sitting to my left, traffic engineer, Scott Kennel, and Christine Cookbone is the professional planner. And we did receive 2 reports, one from the board planner, last revised April 20th, 2026, and the board engineer's report dated May 22, 2026. So with that, we can have Mr. Back sworn in, and he can go through the changes from the original approval to what we're looking at now.
All right, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, please state your name and spell your last for the record.
Yehuda Back, B-A-C-K, licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey, in good standing. You want the background?
We're having a little trouble. I don't know if you're quite on, if you might have to get closer to that microphone.
All right.
Because we're recording, so it's important. Thank you.
And does the board accept his credentials?
We're happy to see you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And just for the record, Mr. Bach, your office prepared the amended plans that we're going to be reviewing today?
Yes, under my direction.
Okay, and if you could describe the site and the surrounding area, and if you're going to rely on any exhibits, make sure that they're identified for the record, please.
Yeah, so I have 5 exhibits tonight. Exhibit A1 is our prior approval layout. Exhibit A2 is our new subdivision plat. Exhibit A3 is our new cover sheet. Exhibit A4 is the proposed layout now, and Exhibit A5 is our utility plan. I'll go through the site. Anthony, can you please pull up, let's go with A3. That's our new cover sheet. Okay, so the site is identified as block 1102, lot 24.02, and block 1101, lot 34. I'll try to point those out for you. The lot 34 is this portion on the, let's call it the southeast, bottom right. North is up on this exhibit. And lot 24.02 is the entirety of this west side. We are located, the address is 1020 and 1050 Farmingdale Road. We are in the R5 zone. Lot 24.02 contains 7.73 acres, and lot 34 is approximately 3.91 acres. The site is located in a relatively rural area on the northeast side of Jackson Township and north of I-195. The lots on the east side of Pfister Road, which is this road that's currently running north to south. You can see sneak peek on our new proposed alignment, but the lots on the east side are single-family homes in the R5 zone. To the north are farm properties and the Bells Farm, which is a large equestrian facility. To the south, across Farmingdale Road is Shakoni Farms, all the way on the bottom of this exhibit, which is a plant nursery in the R3 zone. Properties to the west are in the R3 zone as well, and immediately to the west is Arla Kennels. So the properties in the area are a mix of single-family homes, agricultural uses, and small commercial businesses. As was mentioned on June 19th, 2023, the board granted preliminary and final major site plan approval to construct 3 two-story high schools on the property, all of which were on one tax lot at that time. Schools are listed as a permitted use in the R5 zone.
Perhaps flip to Exhibit A1 so they can see what it was originally approved.
Yes. Perfect. Okay, so as you can see on the original approval, there was no lot 34 included. This is the current right-of-way of Pfister Avenue, and we were proposing some curbing and sidewalk along there in the original approval. Of all
And
3,
one large septic system in the back there, correct?
exactly. So all 3 schools have a footprint of between 9,000 and 11,000 square feet each, and total building area of between 27 and 29,000 square feet. That's for each building, and that was what was original, keeping it exactly the same now. As was mentioned at that time, the board did allow green banking of the parking spaces because it was believed that the parking required by the ordinance would be excessive. It was testified to then. There's no students driving. There's more than sufficient parking for these schools. Additionally, at that time, some design waivers were granted. Mostly the entrance and exit driveway lengths of 100 feet is required, and at that time we had 48.5 feet. And additionally, another design waiver that was granted previously was to permit parking in the front yard.
And the approved access drives all come in and out of Feister Road today, correct?
Yes. So we're seeking approval firstly for a subdivision. We're looking to subdivide this lot on the west, lot 24.02. As you can see on the previous approval, it's, oh, I think this died on me. There you go. Yeah. It's one big lot. In the previous approval, Anthony, if you pull up, please, A2. That's our proposed subdivision plat. Oh, thank you. You'll see, I'll try to point them out. Oh, nice. 2 proposed new lot lines right there and there, which subdivides this one big lot into 3 lots. Additionally, we're looking to subdivide lot 34 over here. On this plat, you can see right north to south, almost a straight line is the original Pfister Road. Per Ocean County, numerous meetings with them, they requested that we go with more of an alignment that curves so that we can meet North New Prospect Road over here and create an intersection, as opposed to having the intersection jog to the left. So that's with regard to subdivision. Obviously, the township would vacate this portion of Pfister Road, and that area would go towards the new school lots. With this subdivision, we actually reduced the effect of the previously approved design waiver, where the driveways weren't long enough. We're actually making them a little bit longer now, since the road, in order to meet the road, they'd have to get stretched all the way to the east to hit the road, so that waiver is reduced slightly. That's for subdivision. For the site plan, there's no changes proposed to the schools as they were approved. No changes to the parking lot that was previously approved, including the green baked spaces. No architectural modifications. The differences to the site plan are limited to, as I discussed, the alignment of the road and a separate septic system for each school, as opposed to the previous approval had one large state septic system. Now we would do 3 individual ones that look very typical. They're a regular septic system. Obviously, that does limit the schools to be confined to a regular septic system now. Each school would individually need to be confined to that, but that is our proposal.
And then on lot 34, there's a large warehouse building that's going to be removed, correct?
Yes, because otherwise we would have a setback, a front yard setback with the new alignment. So the new alignment's going to come in over here. This is an old warehouse, which is now to be removed.
And if you could just touch on the variances that are required with
Yeah,
respect to the subdivision?
So with this proposed subdivision, there are some variances that are created. Minimum lot area for proposed lots 24.03. And just for reference, the bottom one is 24.03, 24.04, 24.05. And then all the way to the east is going to be 34.01. So minimum lot area required is 215,000 square feet. Lot 24.03 proposed is 136,061 square feet. Lot 24.04 proposed is 112,502 square feet. Lot 24.05 proposed is 109,824 square feet. And lot 34.01 proposed is 147,371 square feet. Now, the reason why we now have a variance as opposed to the previous approval is pretty obvious. The previous approval was one big lot, which complied with lot area, and now we're proposing to split them all up. Additionally, there's a minimum side yard setback variance proposed for lot 24.03. Anthony, can you please pull up A4? That's our proposed layout and dimension sheet. There's a side yard setback variance created on lot 24.03, and that's between this bottom lot and the next one above it. Side setback of 60 feet is required, whereas 50.48 is proposed. Additionally, there's a lot depth variance required for proposed lot 34.01, and that is generated by this new alignment of the road. So the lot depth in this direction required is 400 feet, and we have 314.07 feet. Additionally, a variance is required to allow schools on a roadway that is not a collector or arterial road. This variance is needed as a result in the change in the ordinance and as a result of subdividing the lots, whereas the original approval had all three schools, you can say, fronting on Farmingdale Road to the south. Now these top two northern schools have their sole frontage on Pfister Road. And lastly, for parking on proposed lot 24.03, also this is a change this is a result of a change in the ordinance. The current ordinance requires 88 spaces, and we have 74 total, which includes EV and green bay spaces. And I'll get to the breakdown of parking a little bit later. There are 2 design waivers required for this application. Again, the minimum entrance driveway and exit driveways, we're making them a little bit better, but a design waiver is still needed. And secondly, landscaping strips between the proposed lots, so the side yards of each lot, required landscaping strip is 10 feet, and we have about 9.5 or 9.48 over there. Other than that, we will comply with all the buffer and landscaping requirements. With regard to utilities, there's no changes to the original approval with regard to water and fire service. Potable water service will be supplied via wells, and fire service was also a well that then discharged into a cistern, which serves as a holding tank for in case of a fire. All these wells will obviously require permits from the NJDEP. Sewer, as was mentioned, that changed slightly. The original approval was for one large state septic system. We're now proposing 3 separate septic systems, each one in the rear yard of their respective schools. It's typical flows for a school like this that doesn't have dormitories or food prep. It's 10 gallons per person in the school, which includes students, teachers. And again, they would be limited in their number of total people count based on these septics, which have a max gallon flow of 2,000 gallons per day, which is a septic that you'd have in the new age, let's call them McMansions. They have a 2,000 gallon septic. It's not unheard of. And obviously we would comply with the required separations between septic systems, disposal fields, stormwater recharge areas, and any wells.
Mr. Bach, could you just explain to the board why you wouldn't just come forward with a subdivision instead of going through all this? Why why staging? Why can't we stick with the same plan and not have to look at these variances? My concern is the future. And we've already, as you pointed out, things have changed. The roads have changed. We've been down that road, excuse the expression, before lately. Why the need for this drastic change?
So there's two reasons. Number one is, and the applicant can testify to this, is just with regard to selling these lots as opposed to one big lot and trying to, I don't even know how they do it. I'm not an attorney. How would they carve off each individual school? But what I can testify is just from the septic standpoint, a normal looking, let's call it, septic system, and each school has their own and nobody's relying on each other for the septic is.
Well, that
much
can
easier.
still be done with a staging, couldn't it? I mean, couldn't you stage it?
I think that the board chair is talking about a phasing plan. Why no phasing plan instead of subdivision?
In order for the septic, you still would need, regulatory wise, you still would need them to be on individual lots in order for it to be a standard septic system. You're limited to 2,000 gallons per day per the lot. So if we have them all on one lot, then you have the 2,000 gallons get split between all three schools, which isn't practical at all. I mean, it limits you severely.
You're saying that a common area septic system wouldn't be adaptable in the existing layout? So if you ever subdivide it, couldn't have the one system be a common area to the three schools and the three lots?
Right, if we would do that, which is why we have to subdivide and then do the three.
No, I'm not saying, I'm asking you, why do you have to have three? Why can't you just have the one main as approved today
Right.
and have it as a common area for all three lots?
So you
It
get
just
the,
it would make a contribution to a management,
right. So that type of septic system is, let's call it non-standard. You'd have to go to the state. You'd end up with a treatment system essentially on site. It's very not typical.
not typical, I'll agree with, but it's
Yeah.
done.
It is done. It is done. It's
And the subdivision also helps with financing. So oftentimes when you have properties like this and you have several buildings on it, you do a subdivision because at the end of the day, it's an imaginary line. If you look at the original approval, this is essentially exactly the same layout, other than the reconfiguration of Feister Road, which was required by the county, and changing the septic system from one large one to three separate ones. No one's gonna know the difference. It's gonna look otherwise exactly the same. The buildings are in the exact same location, they're the exact same size, and the parking's the same. The parking variance is triggered because the township ordinance changed. If there's the same amount of parking spaces that we originally proposed, no change. So whether the board were to grant the approval or not, this is exactly what you're gonna be looking at. And so from a financing perspective, you could have three different banks giving you a loan on each of the different buildings. It makes more sense. Otherwise, then one person has it, and then who decides which bank loan goes in first, and it just is a lot better that way.
Except that you're gonna need more variances.
Technically, you need more variances, but at the end of the day, it's the same thing. This is how it's gonna be, look, no matter whether the board wants to grant the relief or not.
Mr. Brezzi?
Yeah, I think I'm following this pretty good. I understand the three separate septic systems. I would guess that the one big system would cost you more than three separate ones. Am I correct?
probably.
Yes, much more.
I would imagine.
And the biggest, I mean, I understand you have to come back to us because the county wanted you to change a road. I understand that. Once again, you got to come back because an outside agency changed something. I understand that. But the thing that I have a hard time digesting is the fact that we're going to three separate lots now requiring a bunch of variances. I got a hard time. It's almost like this makes it easy for you to buy and sell and all that. And my concern isn't buying and selling. My concern is staying within what we really wanted from the beginning. I can understand the three septic systems. I almost think that might work better. I'm not an engineer. But the variances created by the other lots, there's a lot of them, all side setbacks and stuff like that, where originally it was kind of the same, but it was in one big lot and it qualified. So I have a problem with that. I understand the road. I think the road is a good move by the county. And I understand that's a lot of expense to you, and it was your decision, and that's why you're back here. So I still need a little more from our professionals on the,
As a matter of fact,
variation-
I remember,
variances.
I remember very well, we were very concerned about that dogleg from what's now North New Prospect, used to be Brook, North New Prospect to Pfister. So we're very pleased. I've been out there 3 times this week. I haven't seen anything that looks like anyone's moving anywhere toward making these changes. But is there some reason you cannot just continue with the original plan and put in 3 separate septic systems for 3 separate buildings?
and I got a question at that point too,
there
right
is-
off that. If you did it like that.
Yeah.
I was talking first. I was talking first.
I agree with you, and the code, I wish it did go per building, the septic code, but they don't. They go by per the lot. And it doesn't make any sense. It should go by whatever's going to each septic system. That's how you should count the flows. But you want to call it a glitch in their code, or I don't know, maybe they'll change it, but it goes by the lot, which requires us to do the subdivision.
Mr. Peters?
Well, I don't have the septic regs in front of me, but my recollection is that you were allowed 1 septic system per realty unit or tract of land. But if the board's not comfortable with the number of lots or the variances associated with the lots, I don't think the septic systems have anything to do with it. They can come back and get 2 conforming lots and 2 buildings and have a lot on each building. There are alternatives. So I'm not sure I want to intertwine number of septic systems with the variance relief for the individual, for the 3 lots.
To make a clarification to my comment, I just want to clarify. What I was saying about using the common area septic system was if they built according to the existing approval, they would need to do that. And if they came back and subdivided later, it would only be, would it be any change other than a legal agreement to share the costs? You know, if the common area
No.
isn't needed and you can go to 1 for each lot as it exists, well, to me, if it's cheaper. But if it's not, you have to put the large single use, it's not a waste of money. That's all my point was.
Mr. Clee, what do you think?
I agree. Yeah, it's going to be a lot easier and cheaper to have 3 individual septic systems. The only way you get that is to have 3 individual lots. By doing the 3 individual lots, you induce variances. But I don't know if the reasoning that it helps with the financing is in the land use law, and I'll leave it to Mrs. Capone to get into the weeds, so to speak. But I don't know if that's a justification for the financial benefit for the applicant, that's why it's okay to induce these variances.
So I do it all the time. So you think about a mall, almost every anchor tenant, it's on its own lot for financing purposes. So they own the land generally under them, and somebody else owns the main part of the mall. So I've worked on several of the malls in the area. And a lot of the industrial parks, you go in and you'll put 5 industrial buildings, and we go in and we do financing subdivision so that the person who owns the building gets property just underneath it. So it's a very similar type of situation, because at the end of the day, what we're looking at is what's going to be there, and we're just drawing imaginary lines basically to create the opportunity to finance them. And the other thing with the septic system is, we have 1 septic system and it fails, that affects all 3 schools. Instead of having separate septic systems where if you have a problem, which hopefully you never do, but we can't control everything, then it just affects the school that has that 1 septic system. So I think from a practical standpoint, it also makes a lot more sense to have each of the schools on their own septic system, regardless of the cost involved.
In spite of the testimony in the beginning of the original approval, the 1 septic system was fine. It'll work fine. We'll get all DEP permits. Now it sounds like, well, there could be an environmental issue. This is better to have 3 if 1 fails. And Let's hope it doesn't, like you said. I just don't see the positive for the applicant helping with financing is something the board really needs to consider. But just another point, couldn't you just develop it as one big piece, get rid of all the new variances, and just condo off or lease off the individual schools properties?
Sure, you can certainly, that's another option. So,
And then if you did that, then all the variances, new variances would go away.
that is correct, but then we're stuck with the one septic system.
Which is what the board originally approved.
Mr.
Right.
Tremor, any thoughts from the Environmental Commission on this? We didn't see anything prior to the meeting, but how about now?
I mean, obviously, this one was approved before my time, so I wasn't too well versed on it. In the catch-up plan, it's at this time I don't have any official comments on it, just because I haven't had the time to really catch up on it. So no, not at this time.
Can I have one question that you may be able to answer, right? Environmentally speaking, what would be better, a single plant or 3 different septic systems?
That's kind of a loaded question, because environmentally you're talking about 3 separate systems, 3 separate occasions for failure, 3 different systems. Obviously, the bigger system is also a concern as well, based upon the land. So
To be fair, this is actually a question for the engineer.
yeah,
If
I
you
was going to
wanna-
say this is
Oh,
more of a Doug and
yeah.
Ernie question, not me.
Then I pass that on to Doug and Ernie.
But just time out for a sec. So just so the board is clear, there's different ways in which property can be subdivided, right? So if you keep a lot, right, you want to break it into multiple buckets is the way you want to look at it, right? So if you keep a lot, you can put it into what's called a phasing plan, right? They develop one at a time, and it staggers the cost. It makes it more cost affordable for a developer, right? See that all the time. That's customary. We haven't seen a lot out here because there's a lot of land out in Jackson. But in other townships, sometimes you have overlapping situations. They do a lot of phasing. Second way would be what we're seeing in front of us, which is a subdivision, right? You take the property and you chop it up a couple of ways and you subdivide it, right? And based upon whether it comports with the bulk standards is when you get the variances and everything like that. Another way to do it is condominiumization, right? Which is, I believe for commercial, you have to go to the DCA. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one. But you basically, you file an application with the DCA, and what it is that instead of subdividing the property, you're subdividing the buildings. So it's another way to subdivide. You're just doing it with the buildings instead of the underlying like real estate. So we just touched on 3 varying concepts of that, and we don't see a lot of that at this board. I just want the board to understand that those are different ways to accomplish the same goals, and that's what we're referencing. I think Ms. Jennings referenced to, Mr. Klee referenced to, I just spoke about it. It's different ways to get to the same point is all I'm trying to say.
Madam Chair. I guess sticking with the septic systems, and the first one we did approve was pretty severe, pretty detailed, workable system. That's a whole totally different system, and I realize it's more expensive. The other small problem I have is every lot with the subdivisions 100 foot short in width, which puts your 3 septic systems pretty close to each other. And that concerns me with the leach fields and stuff. So I don't know, I'm not an engineer, I don't pose to be one. I like the idea of 3 septic systems. If one fails, only one fails. But on the same token, that one that we approved, the system that it was, if it fails, you're in trouble, but you have to fix it. I see this as just a way, my own personal opinion, to just be able to sell off property quicker. I don't know why you can't leave it as is and just lease the property, as Mr. Klee recommended, and not create all these variances. And I do have a concern with the septic systems. I like the idea of 3. I realize they're not the same quality as the one we approved, but they're all on undersized lots by 100 foot each. And, that was part of the problem why we kept R3s in the master plan for years, is to keep the nitrates and stuff down and not septic systems close and to the wells and stuff. This way you put them even closer. I have a concern with that.
Mr. Klee?
Just one last item. The realignment, great. I think it's a better project. So from an engineering perspective, no issue with the realignment of Pfister. I think it's really, really a good idea.
All right, so the bigger question is, has the engineer finished presenting his testimony? Because I don't know if he did.
Almost.
Okay. You want to keep on going and then?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
And just to answer your questions about the separations, of course, we have to comply with the well-documented requirements, which I didn't study them, but they.
I
DEP
understand,
studied
and you'll
them.
meet the requirements. Once again, they're going to be, you'll just meet it rather than have room like we had before. So if you're 10 foot more extra, rather than being 50 foot apart, you're that much closer. And there's 3 septic systems, leach fields in the back. And if you look at that, I don't know what the numbers are that are required, but I'm sure you can draw any line to make it meet the 50 foot or 20 foot that you want. But you still got 3 septic fields in 3 lots that are undersized in width by over 100 foot each.
I do have a question when it comes to the original system. Did you get to the point where it got to the Department of Health, and was there any concerns from the state about the original system? Is that why it caused the trigger to try to change to 3 separate systems? Or was the original septic system that was planned, was that approved by the state, ready to go?
It wasn't approved by the state. It went to the, it did go to the state itself. It wasn't me. It was an outside agency. That's how different it is, let's call it. So you have not an outside agency, you have a different engineer that this is what they specialize in, these type of systems. I wish I knew how to design those. I don't.
So that's what I'm trying to wrap my head around is that, so it got to the state level and the original plan that we had, they looked at that septic system and were they good with it, or were they the ones that were trying to amend it?
I didn't get an answer.
Okay.
I didn't.
Just quickly follow. So you don't know if an application was actually submitted to the state?
Correct.
Thank you.
So this has been two years, maybe 3.
No,
20,
we were approved last year.
right, okay.
I have a question. Let's say you didn't get the subdivision, you have the 3 buildings on 1 septic system. What's stopping you from leasing out 1 school to a different owner? Is that possible?
Nothing, that's a legal question. No, that's possible. Mhm.
It's possible. And so you could accomplish the same with the same system we originally approved and not get the subdivision and create all these variances. Thank you.
Okay. Continue?
We're sorry to interrupt, but these things
Short
are
intermission.
surfacing, and you're the man at
So
the,
I would
at the
have,
seat right now. So if you'd just like to finish your
Yeah.
I'm more
testimony.
than happy to.
Thank you.
With regard to lighting, there's no changes from the prior approval. Landscaping plan, again, no changes. We will comply with the ordinance for landscaping and buffering along the lot frontages and rear lot line, other than the one waiver I mentioned along the side lot line where a 10-foot unbroken landscaping strip is required, whereas we have 9.5. And we also have openings for the emergency access. With regard to parking, I touched on it before a little bit. The current requirement is 1 space per staff plus 3 spaces per classroom plus 1 space per 50 square feet of general assembly space. Lot 24.03 requires 88 spaces, but includes only 74 spaces. So variance is required there. Lot 24.04 requires 82 spaces, and we have 86 proposed, so that complies. And lot 24.05 requires 78 spaces, and we have 78 proposed, which again complies. An emergency access easement will be necessary for each lot, and that's created because we would subdivide. So each lot would give each other permission to go through in case of emergency, go through each other's lot. I know it was brought up in the letter, should an individual school require a grease trap for any reason, if they have food prep, obviously one will be provided per the code. With regard to the grading comments, the amount of soil removal does not exceed 1,000 cubic yards, and we will comply with Chapter 364 of the ordinance with regard to fill. The design for the solid waste storage has not changed from the previous approval and will comply with the ordinance. There was some discussion about whether an easement is necessary for access to the fire cistern. No easement is required. I think it would be covered under the emergency cross-access easement. The one who would be accessing that cistern is the fire department. They can go in and access that. No signage is proposed with this application. With regard to outside agency approvals, and this touches on what's taking so long, Ocean County Planning Board I know I myself sat in, I think it was at least 3 meetings with them. And so you schedule it 3 months out, and then you get to the meeting and then try to incorporate it, send the letter. All this stuff does take time. But at this point, it is pending this realignment of Vista Road. We do have a meeting scheduled with them for the end of this month to follow up about this realignment. For Ocean County Soil Conservation District, we have, I believe we received comments. Those are generally stormwater comments. Those we will address together with the township engineers, stormwater comments. The Environmental Commission, it's the same as the original. There are no environmental concerns, as was seen in the original EIS. Ocean County Health Department, that's pending, once we submit for individual septic systems. And the NJDEP also would be hold off until we would submit well permit applications. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Question.
Mr. Brezzi.
Seeing our new septic system, would you comply or stipulate that if the Environmental Commission comes back on a letter of concern, you'd come back in front of us? If they come back on a letter of no concern, then you don't have to come back?
Sure.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. DeMarza.
So I think in the very beginning, you mentioned that you wanted the flexibility, or the applicant wanted the flexibility to be able to sell the lots off. Is that, yeah. So that to me seems like the reason that we're trying to subdivide at this point. It doesn't have anything to do with the septics. You want to be able to sell these lots individually, and they're undersized.
It is an additional benefit. The reason for the subdivision is really the realignment of the road. As was mentioned, if he just wanted to sell them off, if that was the sole reason, he can without doing a subdivision. But I guess you'd say it progressed to this point where each thing led to another, where we said, oh, you know what, we're realigning, it's a subdivision. Oh, how about if we actually subdivide and kill 2 birds with 1 stone, where you get that benefit of selling them off and you get the typical septic systems.
Yeah.
But it is a benefit of subdividing, is that I want to say it's easier. I don't know the process of HOA or whatever it's called, the other processes of selling each individual lot. I don't know which one's easier or harder.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Brezzi.
You made a statement that the reason for the subdivision is the adjustment to the road. The adjustment to the road, I concur with Mr. Klee, is great. I see no reason how the road curving out created the need to subdivide these lots. I'm sorry. Respectfully, I disagree. As I said at the beginning, it looks to me like it just makes it easier to sell them off. As far as I'm concerned, eliminate the subdivision, lease them off individually, however you can do it. And we approved an original septic system that was totally modified up to the Pineland standards, all that stuff, and whatever it's called, I forget the name of it. And they're quite intricate, and they got to be monitored and everything else. And I'd rather have a monitored septic system that size, even though it's for 3 buildings, than 3 individuals, like a house. And then again, creating all these variances. Like I say, the road, from what I'm looking at, and I could be wrong, I'd ask Del Clee, I don't see the road creating the variances. I just see the easier way to sell it is with the variances, respectfully.
I want to say I agree. I don't know, maybe I misrepresented. I agree. The road realignment doesn't need the subdivision.
Thank you.
It did lead us to think of the subdivision, but it's not required for the road
Ready to think
realignment.
of it. I understand that. No problem.
Also, we still have the planner to put planning testimony on, so we want to let them get through some of that. Because some of this is just
You know
does
you
go
won't
to
be
the
going
variance
far.
relief.
You'll be right here if we have more questions. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to call up Scott Kennel, the traffic engineer.
All right. Do you swear or affirm, tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right.
Scott Kennel, Kennel, with McDonough and Ray Associates, located 1431 Lakewood Road, Manasquan.
Because we've never seen you before,
It's
does
been
the
a
board
while.
accept your credentials?
Welcome back.
Thank you.
And
Thank
we
you.
certainly accept your credentials. Happy to see you again.
Thank you. So our office prepared an updated traffic study. It was submitted as part of this application dated January 9, 2026. It generally contains basically the same information that we had testified previously. The difference is the realignment of Pfister Road opposite North New Prospect. But But as before, as we testified previously, the school commences at 7:15 in the morning. That's prior to the peak hour traffic that occurs in that area, which is generally 8:30 to 9:30. And they also have dismissal at 7 p.m. So again, the majority of traffic activities outside the street peak hours along Farmingdale Road in this area. And the other key factor is, as was mentioned earlier, is none of the students drive as you would see at other type of high schools. So again, the traffic generation from these three high schools are much lower because the students are not allowed to drive vehicles to the school. And we had originally projected approximately 180 trips during the morning peak hour, and that would occur from 7 to 8, again, prior to the AM peak hour. And we did some projections for the afternoon, which would be minimal, would be service or employee, which would be a lower traffic volume of approximately 30 trips. And again, the majority in the dismissal period occurs after the PM peak hour, when the traffic volumes are lower along Farmingdale Road and North New Prospect. But in looking at the realignment of Pfister Road and Prospect, we're providing a four-way intersection. The other major benefit is that there will be a dedicated left turn lane, eastbound and westbound, on Farmingdale Road to better segregate traffic through the intersection. It's also important to note that all the improvements and widening takes place on the north side or along our property frontage. Because of the existing nursery on the south side of Farmingdale Road and the fact that their parking have head-on parking fairly close to the edge of pavement, required us to do all the widening along the site frontage on the north side of Farmingdale Road. But even with all those improvements and with the three schools fully operational, we're projecting a level of service B. B as in boy, which is well below the design level service C to D that Ocean County encourages. The site driveways are all projected to operate at level service A or B. So again, as testified previously, all the site driveways in the intersection will operate at very good levels of service. And again, it was testified that we have more than ample parking to serve all three schools. And for emergency purposes, there is a emergency driveway between each school parking lot as an alternate means of access to optimize accessibility for fire emergency vehicles.
Mr. Kendall, can you show us on there where that would be?
They would be, as I recall, there's one right here between the northern school and the middle school. And then the other one is right in this location here. So that way, again, we have access up the Farmingdale Road. It kind of gives you a straight shot north-south to connect to all three schools. And as the engineer testified, we've been having numerous meetings with the county, and we have another meeting scheduled for the end of the month to just firm up and finalize the intersection design. And then one other condition of this, not that it's warranted based on this development, but again, the intersection will be monitored for the need, if it should happen, for a traffic signal at this location.
Mr. Brezzi has
That
a
was my
question.
question, you just touched on it. Originally, it was like a zigzag where you were coming out and going, I like this better too. But I was going to say, I know it's up to the county, you're going to say it's up to the county. But I believe that'd be the perfect spot for the light. I don't know about what it takes to constitute that with the county, but I believe there should be a light there if possible. I know that's not up to you or the applicant, it's up to the county.
Well, we've had a discussion with the county, and we've looked at the future traffic volumes, and the future traffic volumes with the school fully operational would not meet the traffic volume warrants that are established by the Federal Highway Administration.
I understand those regulations. There's that issue on Diamond Road and County Line Road where we have accidents every month, and they're finally putting a light in for the last 5 years. It's still not there. But uh, if there could be some push from the applicant on this, because with the flow, with the traffic off New Prospect and everything now, and the way it matches up, I think a light's warranted there. I don't know what you can do to push it.
Well, again, if there were the number of accidents you mentioned as far as at Diamond
Hmm.
and West Commodore, that is another type of warrant. Since this isn't configured in that fashion, there are
I
no
understand. I don't
accidents.
want to wish accidents, but we got to do something, I think, to get, when you look at the flow there, I think you need a light there.
Well, again, the applicant has agreed and we've committed to the
Thank you.
county that we'll monitor it for meeting the signal warrants.
I appreciate that.
I was out there, as I said, 3 times in the last week, and I noticed there are a lot of very large trucks coming down Pfister from, I assume, Champion.
I would
And the
agree.
thought of school buses and those trucks on that same intersection, it's going to be tough.
Well, that's why this improvement is a benefit not only to this development, but to the public. And Pfister roadway would be widened along the entire frontage, so that'll be enhanced for what exists today.
Good. Anyone else from the board? Gentlemen, any questions?
Just to, I guess, Scott, you know, been, closely working with the county as far as the realignment goes. Good job.
Thank you.
I think it was, you know, tremendous, you know, but the dog leg, I think we
Oh.
struggled with in the beginning. The only other question is, from a traffic safety design point of view, does the fact that there's a subdivision involved affect your findings one way or another?
No impact at all.
Thank you.
Mr. Peters?
Nothing to add, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to call up our planner, Christine Capone.
You're ready, I'm
Mr. Capone,
sure.
always a pleasure. All right, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Welcome. We'll accept your credentials. We've heard them before.
Thank you,
Well,
Chairwoman.
just for the record, you are a professional planner, correct?
Yes, I am practicing for 30 years and my licenses are current and valid.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You've had an opportunity to go over the application, review the master plan and the ordinance, correct?
Yes, I did all of that and I testified on the prior application as well, so I am familiar with it. So I did hear all of the questions and the testimony earlier. So what this gets down to, right, is that, and one of the things that hasn't been brought up tonight is that this is an inherently beneficial use, right? It's a school. So as a planner, when you look at the definition in the municipal land use law of inherently beneficial use, it's a use which is universally considered of value to the community because it fundamentally serves the public good and promotes the general welfare. Such a use includes, but is not limited to, a hospital, school, child care center, group home, or a wind, solar, or photovoltaic energy facility or structure.
So if you could hold that microphone up to your face a little closer.
Say it again? I think so.
I think it's on, but
I think it is. Is that
that's better.
All
That's a
right,
better
even
one.
That one's better.
Thank
Did you
you.
want me to read for the record the definition of inherently beneficial use again?
Oh, I think we all know what it is.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Schools are undoubtedly an inherently beneficial use. So maybe I share a little bit of a different perspective because I think it's wonderful from a planning point of view if we're able to do something, i.e. the proposed subdivision, that even though it creates a few variances, to facilitate the development and construction of inherently beneficial uses, which of course would satisfy the positive criteria. And so the way I look at this application is 5 of the variances are related to the subdivision, right? All 3 lot area variances for the proposed schools. Well, 4 if you consider the lot area for 34.01. So those are related to the subdivision. And additionally, the side yard setback for the school proposed to sit on 24.03 is also related to the subdivision. And then essentially the fact that the schools are not fronting on a collector road, that would also be related to the subdivision. So, and I heard Mr. Kennel's testimony that the road realignment, it really is a separate issue. I think there's 2 things sort of that the board has before it tonight. I think we all seem to be in agreement that the realignment of the road is a better alternative and advised by the county. I guess what I am struggling with as a planning point of view is that regardless of if the board approves this subdivision or not, this property was slated for 3 schools. So I look at it as they're really, in my opinion, right, I've been at this for 30 years now, I don't see the benefits of counting the variances. I don't think that that really gives the board an indication as to the impact of the variance. And in this case, when, as planners, what we look at as far as impact of the variances, right? We look at impervious coverage, we look at traffic, we look at all of these things, we look at the use, we look at the hours of operation. These are all the things that inform us as planners, whether it's us planners for the applicant, you as planners for the board. These are the things we look at and we consider when we're understanding the impacts of the application. Yes, this application needs a number of variances with it, but the impacts are related to lines on a piece of paper. That's what this boils down to. I mean, if you look at what's on the board as A4, that was that's the proposed application. The original application, I think if you put them up side by side, they're not going to look radically different. And the only way you would know that this application were approved if you were driving by, absent the realignment, of course you would know that, is if you had some familiarity with this application, because again, there are lines on a paper. This is what we come to in planning. You can consider this almost like a technical subdivision, or sometimes it's called a financial subdivision. And one of the greatest examples we give of this is if you have a Chick-fil-A sitting outside as a pad site, or when we used to build banks with drive-throughs and they would sit out on a pad site, or we had a Starbucks with a drive-through, and that sat in a shopping center, a lot of times, and you wouldn't know it driving past because it's not like we paint the lot lines into the shopping center, but more often than not, I would say that those out parcels are probably sitting on their own lot. If you're familiar with the Freehold Mall, almost all of those out parcels at the Freehold Mall sit on their own lot. And they do that for financial or owners or financing ways to get them development approved. So here, when I hear someone say, well, that would just facilitate and make the application easier to be developed or approved, well, I would hope so. This is an inherently beneficial use, and I think that that's certainly a benefit. So I think when you look at that and you look at the fact that nothing is changing as far as the development program, this subdivision that we're asking does not entitle the applicant to build a single square foot. We're not asking for an additional birdhouse of a size beyond what was originally approved. We're not asking for any more capacity. This subdivision does nothing to intensify what was previously asked for by this board. It doesn't change anything as far as the number of students to be enrolled. It simply allows for the developer to have the flexibility to have each school sit on its own lot, have each school have its own septic system, and that's something that the developer or the property owner feels as if is beneficial to get these schools online, that it will facilitate that. So when you think, again, that it's an inherently beneficial use, I think the board can grant the relief, of course, with criteria A, promoting the general welfare. But I also think the board can grant and look at criteria G, which talks about sufficient space in appropriate locations. Despite the fact that they're lot area variances, they are, again, paper lines, because the development program that's being before this board is exactly as was contemplated previously. I think criteria M, which talks about an efficient use of the land, is also advanced by this application. So statutorily, again, we only need to advance one, but I think that those three are advanced by this application. And then, regardless of what we find for the positive criteria, and again, this is an inherently beneficial use, we have to deal with the negative criteria. And the negative criteria does not ask you to hold the applicant to a standard that there be no detriment, just that the benefits of the grant of the variance outweigh any detriment. And like I said, to me, there is no detriment associated. These are paper variances that nobody from the public would be able to discern if the board approved. You would not be able to tell that these lots were undersized or that the application was radically different. So when you look at the negative impacts or the impact on the zone plan or the public good, I am at a loss as to see where these paper lines and paper variances create any substantial detriment to the zone plan or the public good. And again, the variances that we're seeking are the lot area variances for the 3 schools, the lot area variance for lot 34.01, the lot depth variance on 34.01, the side yard setback of 60 versus 50.48 feet on lot 24.03, which is the southern lot. That's the southernmost or the bottom lot, as our site engineer called it. and then the school's not fronting on a collector, which again, we meet the intent of that ordinance because we do front on a collector. It's just when we put those paper lines there, we won't. And then, of course, for the parking, which we're not changing the parking program from what was approved last time. So when you look at that, and I understand your concern that it looks on paper like you're granting variances, but I think when you roll that back and you understand what this application is and what the ask is, I don't think that you can rise this to the level of a substantial detriment, which is the test. So I have nothing further on direct unless you want me to touch on the two waivers, which we're actually improving the one, which is the length of the drive and the landscaping, which is de minimis. It's about a half a foot. And I'm sure we could work with your planner and engineer to ensure that those buffer strips are planted to the satisfaction of your board professionals, because we're talking about a half a foot. So that's the design waivers there that we're seeking. So an improvement over the existing conditions and a half a foot resulting from the subdivision. And I think that that's what I would consider de minimis. And I think the applicant would certainly work with your professionals to make sure that those buffers were properly planted. And that's the extent of the relief. I know it seems like we're
Thank you
asking
for
a
the
lot.
testimony.
You're welcome.
I think you keep saying inherently beneficial use. We agreed with you originally. We approved it. We approved the schools in this spot, in this place, but it didn't have to have all these waivers and variances. And variances are our concern these days. We also spent a good deal of time going over this sewage issue. We spent a lot of time on that and heard a lot of testimony on that. We have not had that same opportunity for these three systems to know exactly what we're getting. So that's where my concern lies.
I understand, but I don't think that you as a board are charged with evaluating the number of variances. What you're specifically charged with is to evaluate the impact of the variances, right? No, in none of your board member training did they tell you to count the number of variances required and assess the impact of the application based on the sheer number of the variances or lack thereof, right? If you had an application that had only one variance, that doesn't mean that the applicant could come in and say, well, we only need one variance. So it's a great,
But you did come in and say, we don't need any variances.
Well, that's not this application.
And that makes a big difference to us here.
I
When
understand,
you
but-
come here and say, we don't need any variances, we know and you know where we stand and where we have to stand. But when you come back and change things and they now require a number of variances, we have to consider that.
You have to consider what the variances are.
Of
And
course.
these are variances for lots on a paper, and these are variances for a septic system that we believe is a better zoning alternative, right? Which is the flexible C or the C2, to have the three separate systems so that if one fails, all three schools are not impacted by that. So I think that the board does not, in my opinion, it's not the right area of focus to look at the number of variances.
Thank you.
You have to look at the impact.
Thank you. Mr. Brezzi.
Yes, I just want to review the beneficial uses. You said they're beneficial to the town and so forth, and we understand that. We hear that a lot. We have to comply with that. How does the beneficial use change because it's on three separate lots all together?
So it's not that the beneficial use changes,
It doesn't
right?
change. It doesn't change.
but
That's what I wanted to know. It
let me
doesn't
just finish.
change.
It doesn't change, but one of the things that somebody said was that this subdivision would make it easier. If we had the subdivision, it would make it easier for the applicant to develop the property. And I agree with that. And I think that the board can consider that. When it's an inherently beneficial use, I actually think it's good planning for the board to do things like grant variance relief that would make it easier to develop the inherently beneficial use, particularly when those variances are related to nothing that has to do with the use or intensity of the application, but rather lines on a paper. And I think that that's a difference with a distinction. That yes, we are asking for relief and it is different, but you cannot, there is no rational nexus between the variance relief required in conjunction with this application and any specific land use impact. How are you tying the lot line on a paper to any impact,
Okay,
any
right.
perceptible
Okay,
impact?
number one, the public is confused enough, and some people up here too, when the planning board has to grant variances. They think everyone has to go to the zoning board. I understand the difference. The attorneys understand the difference. And you keep saying variance is only a line, imaginary line. Well, it's not an imaginary line. Maybe somebody driving by it is. But for this board, it's not an imaginary line. And they're undersized lots. We're creating undersized lots. Now we're going to get into, it's still a beneficial use by your own words. And the biggest thing I had, and I think we need another report from the Environmental Commission, is that septic system we went through pretty heavily. And it's a totally different type septic system. And I realize it's more expensive. I have more faith in that septic system than I do as a layman in these other 3 septic systems. And the lines on the floor, are just paper only? No. They're lines this board's going to vote to put in. That's real. It may not be real to you or the people driving by. And I think you're just saying there's lines on a piece of paper. The long term is that we put that line there and you can do that. And the opening statement was they can sell it easier like this. And I don't think that's any reason why we should approve these lot lines so you can easier sell. Especially we found there's other things you can do like lease the buildings or something like that. I do concur with the road change like everybody else. But I got a big concern for 3 separate systems because yes, 1 fails, 2 still work. But with the big system we had in place, we really researched that. There was a lot of data put on the records about that, and that's what we went along with. I think, as you said, it's just lines creating nothing. It's lines creating 3 undersized lots with 3 septic systems next to each other. And I take a little offense to you regarding them as just lines on a piece of paper. This board just don't put lines on a piece of paper. We look at the paper and we make lines according to what we should do. And I'm sorry, when an applicant comes in with a bunch of variances to the planning board, it does draw attention. You come in with 1 or 2 waivers, that makes sense. You come in with a couple of variances, yes. These are self-created variances your applicant's doing by creating undersized lots.
So the undersized lots though, and the lot lines that we're proposing do absolutely nothing to change the intensity or intent of the development that was approved.
Can
I
I?
appreciate Mr. Bright, I didn't interrupt you, so I would like to respond, and I certainly didn't mean to offend you, but it is a statement of the fact that the lot lines proposed in conjunction with this application, and I don't even want to use, are not materially altering. They are not altering in any way the intensity of what was approved by this board. So when I made the example of lines on a paper, because that's important, right? If we were asking for the board to consider a subdivision layout that allowed us to create additional lots and put on bigger buildings or do a different thing or allow a different development program, then I think that that's something the board can consider, that's a difference, right? What we're asking the board to consider does not change the intensity. It doesn't change the size of the schools. It doesn't change the enrollment. It doesn't change anything as far as the intensity. And I do think that the board can take notice of that when you're granting the variances. I think it would be appropriate for the board to make a finding that while the applicant is requesting variances for undersized lots, the undersized lots themselves do not lead to additional density, intensity, or development intensity on the subject property.
But they do add 3 more
Ma'am, I
leach
do want to
fields.
say one thing. It does add 2 extra septic systems. Here we go again with 3 septic systems. You keep saying there's no change. We're going from 1 major type septic system to 3 separate ones on top of each other. So there is a change, I'm sorry.
But the septic systems will meet the state code, just like the large one, so it really would have no impact.
And it's not that the 3 septic systems will be designed for additional capacity. The capacity of the school is staying the same. It facilitates having each school have its own septic system, so that if there were some problem with one of the septic systems, all 3 schools wouldn't be impacted. So I believe that that's a better zoning alternative, particularly when you're dealing with an inherently beneficial use.
Thank you. I have several board members who are approaching me here.
Time out for a second. So just so the board is clear, the legal standard for an inherently beneficial use, what it does, and planners correct me if I'm wrong, right, is that it enhances the positive criteria of the C2 test. So with the C2 variance, you have positive criteria, which is, I think Ms. Scafone said is A, G, and M, right? Then you have the negative criteria, right, which is the detrimental impacts and to the zoning, master plan, ordinances, all that. So whenever we talk about an inherently beneficial use, it's not, get out of jail free card, but what it does is it enhances the positive criteria arguments that they're presenting, right? So again, C2, it's a sliding scale balancing test. You have to balance the positive versus the negatives, detriments. And it's ever so slightly enhances the positives when it's a statutory or case law driven inherently beneficial use. In this case, it's statutory, right? So that's it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Now, Mr. Rogers had a question?
Mr. Brezzi very nicely explained most of my questions, but in support of that, you stated that these imaginary lines, the public wouldn't even know about it. They couldn't recognize it without the lines. Our job is to support the public and is to act in their best benefits, not to fool them, okay? You were asking like you wanted preferential treatment, and that is not the role of this board. This board is to apply evenly, okay, all ordinances and laws.
So we certainly didn't ask for preferential treatment. I came in and I put the testimony on. We provided the testimony of a site civil engineer, a traffic engineer, and my testimony to address the statutory proofs. So we put the full proofs on to address the relief required, which is certainly, in my opinion, not consistent with seeking any type of preferential treatment.
Sounding like to me, and I just saying if it sounded like to me, might have sounded like that to the public.
I want to thank you for your testimony. When we're discussing this project, we turned it from a project that was conforming, that was on a county road, that now has 2 schools that will be on a local road, which is against zoning here in Jackson Township. And I don't want to set the precedent that we're going to allow this. That's 1. 2, we are here to serve the Township of Jackson and the residents of Jackson within the law. We are not here to serve the interests of your client or any other applicant. We are here on behalf of the township to enforce the zoning laws of this township, period. Any other, well, it's just, it's the same application, we just throw some invisible lines in there. It doesn't wash with us. You might try that in some other town. It's not going to work here. Thank you.
Mr. Tremor?
I was just going to add too, like, I agree. You say it's lines on a paper, but there's already considerations that if one of the overflow basins fails, it's going to pond on Pfister Road. That's noted in the engineering report. So now we're also adding 3 different septic systems, 3 different leach fields. We're adding more concerns. So to me, it's not just lines on a paper too. It's additional loading that we're putting on there, right? Like Mr. Bressy touched on with the nitrates and the soil systems too. It's not just that. There's more to it. So, and even with like I said, there's concerns that the one basin will pond on Pfister Road. The other 2 are gonna overflow to the trenching, which is on Farmingdale Road too. So there is more concerns than just lines on a road, and that was what my point I was going to add to the mix was as well.
Madam Chair, as Mr. Trevor brought up the septic systems, I do recall that we went over the other septic system, the way it's monitored and stuff. It helps filter more out than just the leach fields does. Totally different system, and the 3 separate system does not have that severity to it that it does that kind of job on it. And so I agree with Mr. Tremor there also.
Mr. Peters, anything from you?
A couple of things, and if I start to get confusing or if I lose anyone, please stop me. But Ms. Cafone, since you're the last witness, you get to tell me it's someone else's responsibility.
Okay.
As I look at the specific variance request for minimum side yard setback, where 60 feet is required and 50 is proposed for building A on lot 2403, the lot closest.
The bottom lot.
To Farmingdale.
Yeah, the southernmost lot.
If the lines on paper don't matter much, could we have adjusted these lot lines so that the side yards in between the proposed buildings were 120 feet each? And then perhaps the side yard setback for building C on lot 2405 would have been the one that was deficient? Would that have been better planning on our part? Because I don't,
I understand, if I can understand your question correctly, you're asking if we took the lot line out between 2403 and 24 and made that variance go away, and we flipped it to the northern portion, right? You have a finite amount of property here. So again, it just, the layout of the schools and the circulation is not going to change. So if you did what you're suggesting, what is the planning benefit other than eliminating a variance for the side yard setback? You don't change any of the layout. You don't change the circulation. You don't
well,
change.
I don't know that because I don't have dimensions that add up across all of the side property lines.
I
So-
think you really should ask the site engineer that question.
But it would appear to me that you could limit the reduction in side yard setback on lot 2403 by adjusting lot lines.
That may very well be the case. I think we should bring our site civil engineer back up to ask if he thinks we could eliminate that one variance.
And the second question I had is, since the original approval, the parking standards have changed, and now we have a deficient number of parking spaces for Building A. And whether it's a waiver or variance, I don't know, I guess to Ms. Jennings, really didn't get much testimony other than saying we need a waiver. Well, now we're creating a lot that's deficient and doesn't have the ability to share access with other folks. So I would like someone to come back and tell us why we should have less parking than what's required in 2026 on Building A.
I think the testimony was that the students don't drive, so we were overparked to begin with. We're not going to have 77 teachers in the school. So there'll be more than sufficient parking for the teachers that are actually going to drive to the site, and there'll be no students driving. So we're actually overparked still on the site, even though we don't meet the parking requirements today.
And the parking demand hasn't changed. The parking demand and the use haven't changed.
So you would agree if the parking use changed, that someone would need to come back to the board for relief?
100%, and that I think was part of our original approval, that if anything
Was.
changed, we would have to come back to the board, but we don't anticipate that there'll be any change.
Thank you.
Madam Chair. We've been talking a lot about the septics, and while I hear everything Mr. Bressi was saying about that, yes, they are being currently 2,000 gallon standard septics. Correct me if I'm saying it wrong, but what happens if maybe the applicant can agree to an alternate kind of septic system, each one individually? It's more costly, but at the same time, it will keep the property cleaner and at the same time have it. I don't like seeing one big septic for 3 schools, in my opinion. I do believe, small septic, small problem, big septic, if there's a fail, big problem. So if there could be an alternate septic design, maybe that would be agreeable, and maybe the board will agree with that as well.
We would have to ask the site engineer that, because I'm not exactly sure what that would entail. Hootie, do you want to come up and address that?
That's a good idea. If that is the concern, that is a good idea. It's not so difficult.
Use the microphone, please.
It does cost a little more, obviously. You introduce another tank that does pre-treatment, which is part of what the state septic system would do. They do require this in the Pinelands, such a thing. Yeah, that would be, if that is the concern with the septics, that is a good idea.
Well, that's certainly one of the concerns.
So are we adding that as a stipulation?
So
or are we-
would the applicant be willing to stipulate to that?
Yes.
Pre-treatment tanks, I guess.
Pre-treatment facilities for all 3 septics?
Yes.
Any other questions from the board members? And how about Mr. Klee?
Just going back to the septic system, pre-treatment as required by the Pinelands Commission, or design in accordance with the Pineland Commission standards. I just really get in a situation where, well, we said pre-treatment, we added another septic tank, we pre-treated.
Yes, one of the certified pre-treatment tanks.
Excellent.
Certified by the Pinelands.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And Mr. Fung, just two for you, in the land use MUL, the purposes that advance, I think he gave us 3.
I did, yes.
Okay. Did any of them include that it enhances the applicant's or developer's ability to sell the property?
I didn't say anything about the ability to sell the property. What I talked about was facilitating the construction of schools, which are an inherently beneficial use.
We've been through the inherently beneficial, but was there anything in any of the purposes that advance it that makes it easier to market?
I didn't provide any testimony to that
Okay,
effect.
so none of your testimony relates to the marketing and the selling of the property.
No.
And can you speak to the ordinance requirement for being on a higher level roadway and why that might be in the ordinance? And it's a whole different application. Every application stands on its own. But recently we saw a school on a local street, and that's what the board really struggled with. So I'm just curious why the ordinance requires that it be on a higher level street, but the applicant's proposing that there's a reason why that these two schools don't have to be, or it's okay that they are.
So because in this particular case, and as you said, I agree with you, each case has to rise and fall on its own merit. So what the board struggled with in another application or might struggle with on a future application has no bearing on this, right? Each case is fact sensitive and you have to go on the fact pattern that's before you. So in this particular application, unlike, I'm familiar with the other case you were talking about, unlike another application, this is really more of a technicality because when you put that lot line in, then the whole entire site no longer fronts on the type of street that the board envisioned it. But if you don't put the lot lines in, we don't need that variance. So that to me is, again, becomes more of a technicality, right? So hard to say that we're not meeting the intent of the ordinance when the only reason we're no longer meeting that section is because we've drawn two lines on a piece of paper on a site that 2 years ago was approved for schools in this location. There's been nothing in the character of this area. There's been no changed circumstance in this area that would render it inappropriate for the site to be laid out the way it is. In fact, I think the board, I've heard nothing but universal agreement this evening that the access and the site layout or the road realignment is a better improved circumstance over what was done previously. So hearing that and hearing nothing but universal agreement that the road alignment and the road network serving this is better, I am struggling at all to find any substantial detriment that the lot line and the site not fronting on a collector would bring to the board or rise to the level of any kind of detriment, because I've heard nothing but universal agreement that the road layout is better. So for those reasons, for the fact that it's a superior road layout and the fact that it's a technicality that we don't comply with that the site still does have frontage on a collector, but when you drop those lines in, the 2 of the 3 lots don't have the frontage.
But going back to why does the ordinance require being on, for a school to be on a higher level road?
Well, I didn't write the ordinance, Mr. Clee, so I can't tell you why they wrote that in. I would imagine it has to do with the ability of the road to service the use that's being proposed. And here you have agreement from your board and the applicant that the road servicing it is certainly a better situation. So I think in this particular case, there's no offense to whatever intent the municipality had when they wrote in that you would have to front on a collector. And I think it's important that a portion of the site still does front on a collector. It's just the subdivided portion, if the board were to approve it, wouldn't front on the collector. So here, I think the board can rest on those 2 things if you were to move favorably on this application. 1, that a portion of the site still does front on the collector. 2, that it's a better access and layout than you approved previously. And 3, really that there's been no changed circumstance in this neighborhood that would render it inappropriate for this type of use.
That's all. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Peters, anything from you? Pretty much. I think Ms. DiMarzo, Mr. Heller, and I can explain to you why we've prefer that we use larger roadways and not local roadways. The local roadway does have a problem sustaining bus traffic, turning radius, passing of buses. So that's why we prefer the larger roads. Mr. Brezzi.
I have a question on the, They put the
I can't hear you, Mr. Rossi.
if they put the special systems in or the different systems like the Pond requires, we approved the original one. There was, I believe, some testimony, I'm testing my memory here, that there's a licensed professional to monitor that on the one big system. Now, are these three separate systems going to be monitored for that first tank and so forth, or some sort of system to monitor it? That's what I thought. That, and I got a question, Ms. Jennings, just by memory, and going away a little bit here. I thought on the original application, there was some recreation in the back of the buildings. Was there recreation areas in the back of the buildings originally?
Yeah, but I think on the original, we agreed that the septic system would be fenced in.
But the recreation area would be back, only the one septic system be fenced in, but you had recreation areas in the areas. Now, on these plans, I don't see no reference to recreation areas, because you have three separate systems. Does that cut down the recreation areas?
It can, if we fence those in, yeah.
Yeah, it's
If we
going to
fence
cut
those
it
in.
down.
You can play ball on top of a septic system.
I know that on top of leach field, but it doesn't help it. But I was just wondering why it's not showed at all on the plans, where the original ones did show recreation for each school.
Anthony, can you pull up A1, please? Yeah, I don't think we called out any recreation area specifically. There may have been testimony to that.
I think if we check the testimony.
It might have been a
Mr.
condition
Shea,
of the approval that we were going to put the recreation areas in,
Right.
because I do recall
Yeah.
a
in the back
discussion
there, because
about
the one
recreation
septic
areas.
system would be
Actually,
fenced off.
Chairperson Campbell brought
Yes,
that up.
that was mine.
Right.
And now there will be no recreation because there'll be three separate systems covering all those areas.
No, I think we can still have
There'll still be
areas.
Uh,
Go back to A, what is it, 4? A4?
Yep, we're asking.
One at a time, guys.
But it would be reduced, correct?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Can we go to, is it A4?
A5, sorry. There we go. I think we've got 12,000 total between the three of
Keep the
them.
mic up.
I think it's 12,000 total between the three of them, three fields, which can be played on. But I don't know the square footage for the state one off the top of my head. So I don't know how it matches up.
And of course, if there are three separate schools, they wouldn't be necessarily allowed to play on the very large area that was available with the original plan. The original plan had one very large area available.
Right.
This has three smaller areas available.
I'm assuming there would still be some sort of agreement, even on the one large. It's three schools. I highly doubt it's.
Well, I think you eliminated the one large one. We've done that.
Yeah.
That one large one's eliminated. But I would like some sort of professional answer. I can get one about how does I call it the special septic system, the pilot system, doesn't that have to be monitored by a licensed somebody, the way the holding tank works and stuff?
I don't believe so. I don't believe they're monitored.
How to use the microphone.
I don't think they're monitored, even in the Pinelands. I don't think so.
Clear, you have any
Just the
knowledge of that?
typical septic systems.
I don't know if that to be monitored, but I think there has to be some reporting back to the Pinelands Commission as far as its functionality. Is it meeting its
Part of our
Yeah.
original
nitrate
plan.
reductions?
Could be. I don't know.
Would you stipulate to doing some sort of regular monitoring on it?
Yes, I think that would be fair.
Sure.
I think that's a good recommendation, and those systems are totally different than this regular 2,000 gallon system.
Any other questions? Mr. Trummer?
No, Mr. Bressy answered my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jennings?
No, I think that's our presentation. I think you need to open it to the public, right?
Ms. Cofone, just real quick. So just when it goes back to, I just want to make sure the board is clear on this. So when it goes back to the individual lots, right, I know that we're subdividing, but each individual lot still has to stand on its own merits pursuant to the ordinance, correct? Yeah. So if two of the lots, I know that one, I believe, does meet the fact that it's on the major arterial road, right?
Yes,
I-
24.03.
So I always have a problem pronouncing that. It's like a tongue twister. But the other two don't. So the board would still have to deliberate on the legal standard for the C2 variance based upon the other two lots. So even though the testimony that was provided had the positive, negative criteria testimony that was put on record, they still have to determine the viability of that legal test for the other two lots, given the ordinance standards.
Yes.
Yeah.
For
That's all I got.
24.04
Yeah.
and 24.05.
Right.
Those are the two that don't comply.
Right.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Jennings, just summarily, there were a number of conditions that were in the previous resolution. Are any of those, and I don't mean to sort of sandbag you with them, I'm just going through them. There were a number of items that are in the last resolution. Are there changes to any of these that need to be discussed with the board? I'm looking at page 16 of the previous resolution. Well, I take you at your word. I don't know that the engineer or anyone sort of testified that the board had a number of conditions which would apply to the approval. And I just want to make sure that if we need to change them because of how we're amending the plan, I don't want you to just say yes to everything and then we go to write up a resolution and then we have to spend hours trying to decide what it was we discussed at this meeting tonight.
Understood. So looking at page 16, there are 7 conditions listed. I'm reviewing them. The first one said the applicant will provide roaming security guard services for site protection. Agreed.
For all
the
three, for all three sites.
Individually then.
All 3, correct? The septic areas will be fenced. Yes. The schools will only be used for school-related activities and purposes. Yes. 4, signs indicated no stopping and no standing will be placed on all fronting of the properties or the 3 lots and along the roadway. 5, each school will certify to the township that the parking capacity has not exceeded the current limitations. 6, children will not be permitted to drive to any of the schools. And 7, the site or all 3 properties shall employ a DEP certified individual to maintain the septic system. Yes,
All three.
all 3.
I thought there was something there about monitoring it.
We all printed out that lengthy. All right. We'll like to open it to the public now, please.
I'd like to make a motion to open it to the public for cross-examination of the witnesses on this application. Sullivan.
Second, DiMarzo.
Now, that would mean that at this time, you would only come up and ask questions specific to the applicants and to the people that testified, not general comments. General comments will be held at a separate time following this particular time. Does anyone have any specific questions for the applicant at this time?
Seeing no one come forward, I move to close the public cross-examination on this application. Sullivan.
Second, DiMarzo.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, then we'll open again.
I'd like to make a motion to open to the public for comments on this application and this application only. Sullivan.
Second, DiMarzo.
All in favor?
Aye.
If anyone has any comments about this particular application, please come forward at this time.
Oh. Didn't I just see you here?
A couple days ago. Ray Treamer, Jr.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Always.
All right. Please state your name and spell your last.
Raymond Treamer, Tremer. I am on the zoning board, but I'm here as a civilian. As we all know, I used to be on the planning board, and thank you, Mr. Bressi, for the great questions on septic systems. Pineland systems. It's become a joke. What a pineland system is, because the normal house, effluent goes into a tank, it just mixes up and goes into a field and spreads out. What a pineland system is basically a very small sewage treatment plant. So it goes from one tank to a second tank. There's a misconception that's been brought to the boards many times that this creates less impact and we could do a lot more with less. It's not true. It still has the same amount of water going in it, same amount of stuff. What it does is breaks down more of the effluent, which gives a cleaner product going out into the same size field. So it doesn't change the demand. I've installed these things for 5 years. So I'm over 250 systems under my belt. I will call myself a semi-professional. So understand, when they come to the board and say, oh, 150 kids, 2,000 gallon system, it's not accurate, in my opinion. 10-bedroom house, they demand a pineland system, 2,000 gallon tank. How many people in a 10-bedroom house? 15 maybe? So how could 150 children use the same system? Ask yourself that. That's all I'm going to say. Second, I've always said that we need better proof of calculation of these systems. In my eyes, apparently this single system, they got caught. They need 3 systems. That's why they're doing this. And Mr. Marzo, you are correct. They are trying, I believe, to sell it. And it's kind of a shame. Just be honest, do what you got to do. Brought up the master plan, how it doesn't fit. I don't understand why they even want to do this. But I just wanted to explain the Pineland system to everybody just to help understand it. Don't be taken.
Thank you. Anyone else like to come forward on this application at this time?
Seeing no one else come forward, I move to close the public comment portion on this application. Sullivan?
Second, DiMarzo.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
So I think you understand the applicant's position. We would hope that the board would respectfully grant approval, subject to the conditions agreed upon.
Thank you. Mr. Klee, any closing comments from you?
Not really. The only other concern was that because the realignment is such an advantage, in enhancing the product, I'd hate to lose that. But I'm struggling with the subdivision itself with the 3 lots.
Thank you. Mr. Peters?
The same thing, the balancing of the intersection improvements was one of the paramount things that we discussed because we couldn't get it at the last application. And I want to remind the board to weigh that against any perceived negatives associated with the request for the subdivision. Thank you.
Can I ask Mr. Clee, I couldn't catch what you were saying, Doug. Could you say it again? Your opinion on that, Mr. Clee?
No, I just, if the board were to deny the application, I would hate to see the realignment of Pfister. We lose that.
That's what I thought you
But
said.
that might be a condition of the county, whether they do it or whether you approve it or not. I think the county is going to require that realignment. Does that mean that they have to come back to the board again for the realignment of Pfister Road? Well, if they deny this application, they would. And they would also have to apply for a subdivision of the 2402 across the street. I'm sorry, 34 across the street. They would have to apply. That would still be a subdivision involved with that to allow for the realignment of Pfister. Like I said, I just don't really, I wouldn't really want to see it go back to the original way with the dog leg, but I don't think the county's going to buy into it anyway.
I think that was something this board encouraged strongly when we heard this the first time. The,
Well,
to get rid of that dog leg. That was talked about at length.
if this had come in with that realignment and no subdivision, I would have probably looked at that or been comfortable with, it's required by an outside agency, the lots are getting bigger, everything's the same. I could have done that administratively. This I probably would have brought to the board, but I could have handled it that way. It's the subdivision that's creating the problem.
And if this board were to deny this, could we agree that it could be done administratively on the realignment of the lot across the street? That's the issue, right?
It's a subdivision, you have to have approval from the planning board.
Yeah, you can't grant subdivisions administratively. But there's different processes that are involved to get to the same point. You could do a phasing plan, you could do a condominium plan. I don't know how that's going to impact county approval for roadway. It's a whole different ballgame. But getting to that point, there's different methods of procedurally of getting to that. But I'll leave that as it may.
Thank you.
Just a quick follow-up. If the applicant would be, willing to take the subdivision of the properties to create the 3 lots off the table, and we're just here to realign Pfister, which will mean an impact to adjoining lot 34, then I think we could proceed. But that's kind of up to the board, and I don't know if the applicant's willing to do that.
No, the applicant would like their application voted on.
Thank you. All right, let's have some discussion among the board members then, please. Starting with you, Mr. Brezzi, any thoughts?
No, I thank Mr. Tremor for coming up, and I understand we've always had some concerns with numbers reported and so forth, and we may not agree, but I respect you for it on everything. But he brought up one part that the system going in does provide a little cleaner waste going out into the leach field, which is the reasoning for it. And as you saw, the stipulations do state from the prior application that it has to be monitored professionally, which I think is important too. And I think that's a big concession for the undersized lots to do that type of system. I think it was a great idea from Mr. Hall. That's all I have to say at this time.
Any other board member have comments?
I just have one.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes, thank you. I have one comment that I thought there was testimony as to the roadway reconstruction would survive without the 3-lot subdivision at all. It could stand on its own 2 feet. And I heard there was some testimony as to there was other ways of getting to the principal's desire of financial separation of the properties that would not impact the variances and the actual subdivision.
Any other members have concerns?
I have,
Mr. Sullivan?
I have issues with this being a local roadway for 2 of the schools. Now, I know originally this was not an issue because it was 1 lot, but I don't like the idea of setting a precedence that we can allow schools on local roadways exclusively. And the fact is we are creating now 2 schools that will be on a local roadway, which goes against the master plan. I have some issues with that.
Anyone else? Ms. DiMarzo?
Yeah, I just don't find any compelling reason. This project has previously been approved. The beneficial use of having these high schools is fine, as is. It's just, there's no question in my mind that by putting out 3 separate lots, the plan eventually will be to sell each one of those lots and potentially not even have schools on them anymore. And having undersized lots and then putting something else up, that's a real concern, not to mention, as Mr. Sullivan rightly brought up, the local roads. Thank you.
Mr. Parks?
Thank you. I share all of those concerns. For consistency, I don't see how this board can approve one application with 2 lots onto local roads, whereas previous applications it's been refused for other projects. The septic system, I believe, is not perfect, and I don't think it's adequate. I think it's a bad selection, and also with the undersized lots, it's another issue that goes to the way I feel about this, which is not very good.
Anyone else? All right. We'll take a motion to discuss, to vote on this particular issue.
I'd like to make a motion to deny this application. I don't think it meets the requirements for us to give them the variances they require. And I think we have to draw the line when it comes to local roadways, and therefore I am voting to deny this application. Sullivan.
Therefore, that means to second. This is a second for a denial, or
I'll second the motion for the denial. We've come a long way with the septic system, but I think Mr. Sullivan breaks a certain point up. I feel the same way as Mr. Mazzo. By separating the lots, it definitely encourages or makes it easy to sell them off. And then all we need is somebody coming in with a pre-existing undersized lot and change the use. So I have a problem with the undersized lots in the future, and I second the motion to deny.
take a roll call vote, please.
And you want to explain that a yes is a deny?
A yes is a denial, and please, when you vote, explain what your vote is
In regards to the legal test.
in regards to the legal test.
Mr. Bressi.
In regards to the legal test, one we're creating without a hardship undersized lots, which seems apparent in my opinion that they are easy to sell that way. The local road may not be their fault. It's a nice improvement with coming out with that curve in the road to the intersection. And once again, it's 3 undersized lots being created without a hardship. And my concern is that at any point in the future, somebody can come in for one of those lots if they buy it and change the use and apply for a different use. So I vote yes to deny.
Mr. Marzo.
Also, yes to the denial. The detriments definitely outweigh the positives here. Thank you.
Mr. Heller.
Whilst I did like my idea about the septic, I will agree with Mr. Bressi's comments he said, and I will vote yes to deny.
Mr. Parks.
I also vote yes to deny. Reasons I explained, the local road situation, the undersized lots, and the septic system all lead me to that conclusion.
Mr. Rogers.
I vote yes to deny, let alone just the 2 schools on a local street is good enough reason to deny it.
Mr. Tremor.
I also vote yes to deny, as previously stated, with the 2 roads on the local road and the undersized lots as well.
Mr. Sullivan.
I vote yes to deny. We have undersized lots, and 2 of the proposed schools would be on local roadways, which goes against the master plan of the township, and therefore I vote to deny.
Dr. Campbell.
And I vote yes to deny. I thought it was a very good application, the one we did before. I thought we spent a great deal of time on it. I remember going over the septic system at length. I remember going over the placement of where it was and its access to a major road. I thought it was a good application, and I see no reason to have it divided up at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
We'll accept a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to close this meeting. Sullivan?
Second, DeMarzo.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bet nobody's opposed. Have a good night.